Hey fish friends, Zenzo with Tazawa Tanks, back with another video. So, I'm actually down in my fish room, basement room, whatever, down in the fish room, just kind of tidying up. It's a mess down here. I've got a couple big service jobs late in the day tomorrow evening, so I've got to get all my stuff together, and it's a mess down here. And the reason why it's a mess is because I went through a huge project a couple days ago, or a few days ago now, and took out pretty much all of my African cichlids out of a few tanks, and moved a bunch of fish around, and had to move hardscape around. It was a big job. It took me a few hours, so I'm gonna go ahead and take you through what I did, and hopefully you'll find it interesting. So here we go. So I didn't take a lot of video of the work being done just because I had so much to do. But here's just a couple little clips of me pumping water out of the tank. So this was a big job. This took me, gosh, I don't know, over 3 hours, 3.5 hours to do all the work. So here you can see kind of the final kind of result of all my work. So this is this is the peacock and hap tank, and essentially what I had to do is I had to drain the tank down, take all the rocks out, catch all the fish, and separate the fish because I had mbuna and haps and peacocks in this tank. Separated them, and then once I get them all separated, then I introduced the peacocks and haps back into this tank. So fish that went back into this tank came from 3 separate tanks. So, the good thing is that I did quarantine all of my fish and went through the same process as far as ensuring that they are disease-free. So I didn't have any concerns with introducing fish from multiple tanks, as I treat all my tanks the same way. But so far, so good. I've got a lot of fish in here. If you are looking at this, you might think, God, it's overstocked. It is overstocked. That's the way that I deal with aggression, and it seems to work for me. Another way that I deal with aggression is I provide hiding spots. Here you can see my floating irrigation tube here. And that just kind of provides like a floating cave to give fish a break if they're getting bullied and harried, etc. You can see it floating in the top right there. I've got it kind of hiding behind that plant in the top right. I may end up kind of moving it and hiding it a little bit more, but for now, I like it there because I can easily see into it to see who's hiding out in it. And for the most part, one of my OBs has kind of made that his home. I've noticed a lot of aggression with the OBs. They all kind of target each other. So anyway, it's working for me. But as I said, this is an overstocked tank, and that is, my personal preference. Some people don't like overstocking tanks, and I understand, but for me it works, and so that's what I do. So I've got 30 tanks, or 30 tanks. I've got 30 fish in here, 30 peacocks and haps, and I do have one synodontis in here as well. It is heavily filtrated. I'll talk about filtration in a little bit, so don't worry. There's lots of filtration, high water changes, etc. Here we are at the mbuna tank, and as you can see, there's a bunch of stuff floating around. That's brine shrimp. I put some brine shrimp in there because these fish were recently introduced to this tank, and they are a little skittish, and they were hiding when I got all the camera equipment out and everything. So I put some brine shrimp in there to coax them out, and it's starting to work, as you can see. It took a while, it took a few minutes, but anyway, same with this tank. It was a lot of work. I had to, again, drain the tank down. I had to remove all of the rock, and there's a lot of rock in there, catch all of the fish, separate the fish, and then build the tank back up. And when I put it back together, I moved the rocks in different formations, so as to make it look like new territory, even for the same mbuna that are going back into this tank, that went back into this tank. This tank is also overstocked. This is a 65 gallon, so it's not huge. Ideally you'd want a 4-foot tank or more. This is not a 4-foot tank. It's about the same footprint as a 40 breeder, but taller. So I'm kind of treating it like an overstocked 40, even though I do have a lot more water volume. So I've got 19 Mbuna in here. Do have one more Mbuna that I'm going to put in here later on after I quarantine him and grow him out a little bit. But I've got 19 in here. Eventually I'll have 20. This is also an over-filtered tank. I've got, on this tank, I've got a wet-dry sump filter that's has a lot of space for biological filtration with a huge sponge, bio balls, etc. I also have a canister filter on this tank, a small canister filter. I also have a hang-on-the-back filter full of lava rock with a pothos plant growing out of it, so that's a biological filter there. And then I also have a sponge pre-filter on the power head in the top right. So lots of filtration. If you've seen this tank before, you know that I do provide lots of filtration. And, you know, I say over-filtering, and it's really not over-filtering. It's just the right amount of filtration for the amount of fish that I have. I do test my water with the master test kit. I do frequent water changes. I've kind of dialed it back down to around a water change every 3 or 4 days. Usually, more like on every 3 days, sometimes 4 days, unless I'm on vacation or something. And when I'm doing a high, the water changes, it's high volume. It's, 50, 60, 70% water changes at a time. So, they are basically getting 100% water change once a week, if you think about me splitting it up over the days. So, when I do test the water, I am looking at the nitrate levels specifically because there aren't any ammonia levels. The ammonia is 0, nitrates are 0, but the nitrates, of course, pick up. So the nitrates generally are less than 40 parts per million. They kind of hovers between probably 30 if I were to pick a number, just because it's a little bit more than 20 but less than 40 on the chart. So that's about a good indication or a good time for me to know it's due for a water change. And so it was previously stocked in a similar fashion as far as number of fish, and now that I have a similar number of fish, I'm assuming it's going to be pretty much the same. But I shouldn't assume, so I will continue to test and make sure that my water changes, I kind of have it dialed to kind of an exact science as far as how many parts per million on the nitrates, and making sure that I'm doing those same water changes. But anyway, a lot of hiding spots here. I've got a bunch of different fish, albinos, red-top zebras, ACI, yellow labs, blue zebras, etc. So just a great looking tank. I really enjoy it. Here I'm back at the peacock and hap tank. These guys aren't as shy, so for some reason when I walk up to the tank, they immediately swim up, just like you would expect your African cichlids to do. So here I gave them a little brine shrimp also. The brine shrimp, it's not a high, it's not a food that's packed in macronutrients. A lot of water content, obviously, but I like it because it kind of acts like roughage, like fiber, like when we eat asparagus or celery or salads. I find that it kind of does the same with the fish and kind of flushes them out when they've just been eating pellet food, etc. So it's kind of like a good, not a laxative, but just, again, a nice way to clean their systems out a little bit. And they love it, of course, and it's fun to watch them go crazy for a little bit of frozen brine shrimp. But here again, you can see the tank overstocked, I guess. But again, the filtration, high filtration. So here I have a wet-dry sump with a refugium with a giant pothos growing in it. I also have a canister filter. I'm running a Fluval 406 on this tank with a lot of media inside of that 406. I also have a Penguin 350 hang on the back, which is full of filter material as well. I also put Purigen in there. So there's 3 different filter systems filtering this water. Lots of water movement. You can see I've got a water mover power head up there as well. So lots of surface agitation. And I said I moved all my African cichlids. Well, almost all of them, actually. In fact, this is my 60-gallon Tanganyikan tank with Cyprochromis and Neolamprologus multifasciatus. And I moved some multis just because, gosh, they just explode in population. As you can see, they're all over. I've showed this tank before. and I had to, attempt to start a new colony in the fish room downstairs. So I caught a few of these fish in their smaller fry state and put them down in a tank I had established already. I wanted to catch some of the larger ones, but if you have familiarity with these fish, they're just really hard to catch. So I did what I could, and I'll probably try again soon. Here I am down in the fish room. This is one of the fish that actually belongs in that peacock hap tank. Put him in a timeout for a couple days because he was a tank boss, probably will be again. Created a little bit of havoc the first day, so I put him down here for a couple of days. By the time you're watching this film, he's actually back in the main tank upstairs now. But just let him kind of chill out down here and get the other tank established. I do have other African cichlids. Here are two more. I went to the store just to pick up a couple supplies, and they know me there, and I just couldn't resist. I saw a couple fish, and I said, I gotta get these. So one's a Z-Rock and one's a red top zebra there. Not quite colored up right now, probably a little shy, but I'm looking forward to seeing these two grow out a little bit, and I'll move them around and eventually put them with the other fish. They are being quarantined right now. Let's see what I have here. This is one of my fry tanks. So this is a bunch of Mbuna fry that I caught out of the Mbuna tank a while ago. And these have been growing for several weeks now. I forgot when I caught them, but it's been a while, more than a month. I've got 12 of them in here, and they are growing. As you can see, they're getting larger. And actually, I'll put a link down below to the fry video. But yeah, they're doing great. They eat well and very active. So I'm looking forward to watching these grow out. I'll have to move them around to other tanks as well. And this tank is another African cichlid tank that I have down in the fish room. I've got some, I guess some OB fry-rye, I think. I forgot what they were. OB fry-rye. I've got was sold to me as a lemon jake and a male and some females, but I'm yet to see if it truly is a lemon jake or not. I'm not seeing those colors, but anyway, the male's beautiful. He's down there under the clay pot. That bag is actually a nylon, like a nylon my wife wore, that I took and filled with aragonite for buffering. Here is the multi-tank. This is the multi-fry tank you can see there in the PVC. There's some fry swimming around. They're hard to see, but there are several in here. There's a larger one in the back right. He just dipped behind that PVC. It's hard to see, of course, with such small fish that aren't colored and in a, with water spots in the tank. You can see that probably the largest of the fry, he is swimming underneath the sponge filter there in the back. But anyway, that was the project. Well, I hope you enjoyed seeing my fish and the changes in the tanks. I was real excited to get that job done. It was, like I said, it was a big job. It took me a few hours, and I had an idea. I was going to do it. I thought about it for a while. Finally, I said, that day was a day. So I just jumped right in and even, decided I was going to just, not go to the gym that day and just focus on getting that done. And I did. And I'm glad I did. I'm really happy with the results. Hope you enjoyed it too. So anyway, as always, if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do. I'd love to be able to reach more subscribers and share more video content. And I've got a list of a few different topics that I'm going to be covering over the next few weeks. So hopefully you find those enjoyable to watch. And if you haven't clicked that little notification bell, please do as well. That'll let you know when I've posted a new video, so that you can watch it and hopefully enjoy. So as always, I appreciate you. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.